So today we're going to go through the Photoshop steps. Raise your hand if you can tell me how many pictures you need to take for the project. Tell me. One. Okay. That one picture that you're going to take can count for 2 categories. Raise your hand if you can tell me the 2 categories. What 2 things can you take pictures of? Corey. Good. Self-portrait or something that represents you, an everyday object that represents you. Raise your hand if you can tell me how many times you're going to change the color combinations. Tell me.
Just 4 colors and yeah, the same one.
Yes. So you're going to change the color 4 times. When you put it together, 2 of them are going to be repeated. Good. Raise your hand if you can tell me how many panels you're going to put together when it all comes together. Andy? 6. Good. Okay. So a little bit of organization. I've already started here. We're going to, here, I'll close this. I already have my picture in my folder. So I'm going to open up NHS Photo, Photo 1, second period, my folder. So the next thing I'm going to do is I want everybody to make a new folder just for this project. So we've made a folder for every other project. That's the first thing in your notes I want you to write down underneath the Photoshop steps. So we're going to right click, we're going to go to new, and then we're going to go to folder. Right click, new folder. We're going to name this one number 24 to stay nice and organized. And I already know that this is my picture that I want to use. I'm going to do a self-portrait. So I'm going to pull that into my 24 folder. So your 24 folder is going to have the original picture, either your self-portrait or the everyday object that represents you. We're going to be using Photoshop for this project. So just like every other project, raise your hand if you can tell me how we're going to open it up. Zach.
So right click and open with Photoshop.
Good. Right click, open with Photoshop. Oops. Let me close this. So we can start from the beginning. That's from first period. Okay. So here's my portrait. The first thing that you need to do is you need to get the ants to go around my face. So just like the Freak of the Week, we're going to use the quick selection tool. And we're going to drag it out so the ants are going all the way around my face. Or in your case, it might be your object. So what we want to tell the computer is we want to tell the computer that we want to select the object. If you mess up on the selection, go to select and then deselect, and you can start over again. So the first thing we need to do is select out the face, the body, the object, because we need to get it separated from the background. Remember, the tools are all over here. I'm going to use the quick selection tool. So I'm going to pull the ants to go all the way around my face. The next thing I want you to write down is you're going to right click in the middle of the selection. Right click in the middle of the selection, and we're going to go to layer via copy. So what we want to do is we want to make a copy of the selection that we just made. So we're going to right click and go to layer via copy. Just like with the hand tint project, make sure that you can always see the layers menu here. The layers are important or else the colors aren't going to work out. So after I right click and go to layer via copy, watch what happens over in the layers menu. It's going to take the background out of the picture. And on this one, notice here how some of the background's still there. If you messed up on the selection, you can just go back and erase that out. So make sure that all the background's erased from that layer via copy layer. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to do the Warhol block effect. So remember yesterday we looked at the examples of the Warhol. It was like the banana and the knives. They had a color and then it was black. The black parts kind of filled it in almost like a stamp. So to get that effect, we're going to go to Image, Adjustments, and then Threshold. So write that part down next. Image, Adjustments, and Threshold. After we click on threshold, this slider is going to come up, and you want to get it so it's balanced between the lights and the darks in the picture. So if you pull it over too far, it's going to be too dark and you're going to lose all the detail. Or if you pull it over too far to the other side, it's going to be too light and you won't see any detail. So get it right in between so you can see both the black and the white part. When you're done, you're going to click OK. So a little review, that was image, adjustments, and threshold. Image, adjustments, threshold. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to make a new layer. So with the hand tint project, remember we made a new layer for each color. Raise your hand if you remember how to make a new layer. Guys did this a lot for the other one. Anything ringing a bell? Zach?
Is it layer, new layer?
Yep. Layer, new layer. Write that down next. For this project, I don't care as much what you name the layers, but there is a certain order that we'll talk about that they have to be in. So we're going to go to layer, new layer. We're going to click OK, and then the new layer here is going to go on top. So that was layer, new layer. So this is the layer for the background that we're going to add the color to. So the next thing that I want you to write down in your notes is you're going to go to Edit and Fill. Edit, Fill. After we go to Edit, Fill, we're going to click here and we're going to make sure that this says color. It might come up with foreground color or background color. Click on the one that says color, and that's going to give us all of the options, just like the hand tint when we picked out the paint. So that was Edit, Fill, and then we're going to go to color, and then we can choose from whatever colors we want here. So think about what color combinations look good together. Think about the hand tint project that we talked about, complementary colors, analogous colors, secondary colors, primary colors. Raise your hand if you want to suggest the background color here. Any color. Just need somebody to pick a color. Dylan.
Green.
Green. What kind of green were you thinking about, Dylan? Like a lighter green, a darker green?
Bright.
Bright? Kind of like this one?
Yeah.
So remember, if you click over here, it'll change the color. The one on top is the one that it's going to be. So we're going to click OK, and then OK again, and this whole layer is now green. The obvious issue here is now that you can't see my face, so we need to switch the order of layer 2 and layer 1. So we're going to simply pull layer 1 here on top of layer 2. So I'll do that again. Remember, anytime you want to undo anything, you're going to go to Edit, Undo. So we're going to pull layer 1 on top of layer 2 so we can see my face. So we made a new layer, we filled that layer with color, and then we switched the order so you can see the color goes on the background. Okay. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to make sure that we're on the layer with my face, or maybe it's your object, or maybe it's your face, and we're going to make a duplicate layer so we can add color to that layer and still be able to see my face underneath. So to do that, we're going to go back to the layer menu, and then we're going to go to duplicate layer. So write that down. Layer, duplicate layer. And we're going to make sure that we're on the layer with your object. Layer, duplicate layer. After we click on duplicate layer and click OK, it's going to make a copy on top here. So you need to be able to see both of them here. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to add color only to the top layer. So to do that, you need to hold down Control, write this down. This is the key to getting the colors right for this project. Hold down Control on the keyboard, and then you're going to click right here on this little thumbnail. What you want to do is get the ants to go around the picture. So you're going to hold down Control, and you're going to click right there on that little thumbnail so it knows where the ants are going to go. I'll do that again. Hold down Control, and we're going to click right here on the top layer to get the ants to go around my face. And this is important because the next thing we're going to do is we're going to fill in the selected space with a color. Otherwise, it's just going to put color all over the top and not just in my face. So Control is the button you want to push while you click here. So we're going to follow the same step that we did to get the color into the background now that we have just that shape selected. So we're going to go to Edit and then Fill once you have this selected. So hold down Control, click on the top layer so you get the ants to go around, and then we're going to go to Edit, Fill. After we click on Edit, Fill, we're going to click here on Color again. Any suggestions about what color could look good with green? Andy? Purple? Okay. We can pick purple. They're both secondary colors. What kind of a purple? Like a brighter or darker? Closer to red? Closer to blue? Light? Kind of like a lavender? That one okay? So we're going to click OK, and then OK again, and what that's going to do is it's going to put the color over just that selected part. Notice it didn't go anywhere outside of the ants. So this is the next thing that I want you to write down is the order of the layers. And if the layers menu isn't on, make sure that you click on Window and then click on the layers menu there. So the top layer is going to be the outline of color of your face or your object. So that's going to be layer copy 1. The one underneath there is going to be the threshold copy. So that's layer 1. The one underneath 1 is going to be layer 2, and that's going to be the full block of color. And then the one on the very bottom is going to be the background. So to get everything in the right order, you need to make sure that you have the outline color on top, the threshold underneath, the whole background underneath that, and then the original picture. So the next obvious solution that we need to come up with is how do we get it so we can see my face instead of just the shape. So remember when we did the hand tint project, you clicked here where it said normal, and what did we click? Was it overlay? This time you're going to click on the one that says multiply. So underneath layers there's this filter menu, click where it says multiply. Multiply is the one that you want to make sure it's clicked on. When we click on multiply, we're done with the first one. So that was a lot of new steps, but after you finish the first one, it's really easy to go back and change the color. But before we talk about changing the color, we're going to save it. So we're going to save this very similarly to the hand tint project. We're going to save it first as a Photoshop file and then as a JPEG. So to save it, we're going to go to File, Save As. We're going to make sure that it's in our folder, so we're going to open up the NHS photo drive. Our 24 folder, we're going to name it our regular formula. So it's going to be our last name, underscore initial, underscore 24. And this is the first time that we've changed the color. So we're going to name this 1 at the end. The next one's going to be 2. Then we're going to have 3 and 4. So we're going to save it first as a Photoshop file. We're going to hit save. And then we're going to go back and save it as a JPEG. So you need to save it as both when you're done changing the color. File, save as. Make sure down here that you change this one to JPEG. Don't type it in up here. That doesn't always work very well. So down here, click on the one that says JPEG. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to go back here to our folder. We want to be able to see the color copy and the Photoshop copy. Just like the hand tint. You need to be able to see both. Any questions about the first part here? Make sure that you have the order down here. That's the most important part. The outline color, the threshold, the whole background, and then the picture underneath. So the next thing I want you to write down in your notes is how to change the color combinations. How to change the color combinations. Once you've done the first one, most of the work's already done. You just have to change the colors. So how to change the colors. So on this one, we're going to start here on layer 2 that has the whole background color. Just like before, we're going to go to Edit and then Fill. Edit Fill to change the color. We're going to click here where it says Color. Can I get another color for the background? Any color. Corey. Blue. What kind of a blue were you thinking about, Corey? Darker blue. Like this? Okay. We're going to click OK, and then OK again, and then the background's going to change blue. The trickiest part here is changing the color on my face. So we need to click on the top layer, the one that's outlined here in the color, and we're going to hold down what button? Control. Okay, we're going to hit Control and we're going to click right here so the ants are going around my face. So we're going to go back to Edit, Fill, Color. What color could we pick for blue? Other suggestions? Andy.
White.
White. No white or black.
Red.
Same thing for the hand tint. That'll be kind of boring. Especially black, because then you couldn't see the detail underneath. Other than white or black. Sydney, was your hand up? What color? Pink. Like a bright pink, pastel. Kind of like this. We're going to click OK, and then OK again, and then it's going to be just the shape. Just for example's sake, if you click on this layer without clicking Select, if you go to Edit and then Fill, that wasn't a good example because I already changed it. I'll show you the next one. Just make sure that you can always see the outline shape here. So we're going to go to File, Save As. We already have it named, we just have to change the number at the end of 2. Make sure it's a Photoshop file. And then we're going to go back and save it as a JPEG. JPEG. And then check in your folder here, you need to be able to see, there we go, the JPEG and the Photoshop file. So we're going to change the color 2 more times. We're going to click on the layer 2 here that has the whole color. Edit, Fill, Color. What color could we have for this new background? Ruben.
Orange.
Orange. What kind of an orange?
Bright.
Bright? Like that?
Yeah.
Okay, and then the whole background is going to turn orange. If you don't hit Select, when you click on this and you go to Edit, Fill, what color could we have orange go with? Orange and... Any other suggestions? Dylan,
Black.
what did I just say? Any other suggestions?
Oh.
Zach,
Like a dark red.
dark red? Okay. Oops. Kind of like this one?
Yes.
Yeah, those are analogous. That would be a good one. It's going to put that color over the whole thing because we didn't hit control. So that's a no-no. So you know something's wrong if you do that. So we're going to go to Edit, Undo. Oops. Yeah. I'm going to go back in the History menu. And then I'm going to click on this copy, and I'm going to click Control, and then go back to Edit Fill. And we said dark red, I think it was that one. So see how it's back there? So make sure you hit Control, or else it's going to look not quite right. Save as. We're going to change this one to a 3. We're going to save it again as a JPEG. We're going to make sure you can see them down here. Okay, and then we're going to go to Select and then Deselect and start it over again. So looking at our color combinations down here, I'm going to go ahead and go to Edit Fill and make our background yellow. I think we need some yellow in here. I'm going to click on this, the top one, hold down what button? Control. We're going to click here. We're going to go to Edit Fill, Color. You can look at these and figure out a color that we haven't used yet. What about a lighter blue? Click here. And if you don't like the color combinations that you made, it's really easy, as you can see, just to go back and change them or make a new one. You just have to make sure that you go to Edit Fill and then you select the top layer. You need to be able to see the outline of the shape, the threshold, the background color, and then the background picture. So File, Save As. What are we going to change this one to now? 4. We're going to save it as Photoshop and then as a JPEG. So we're going to go back to our folder. Here we go. We have 4 color combinations. 1, 2, 3, 4. Any questions about those Photoshop steps? Okay. I know that was a lot of new information. So tomorrow we're going to talk about how to put it all together. In the meantime, though, I'm going to come by and check in with you. I want you guys to tell me if you're thinking about doing a self-portrait or an object. If you say object, I'm going to ask you what object you want to pick. So think about that for the rest of class. I'll come in and check in with you guys.